and this is so good. I remember one of our catering clients with Western Hospitality requested this dish. They said, my wife is from Trinidad. Her favorite dish is chicken pilau. Do you know how to make chicken pilau? And I said, you know what? I'm Puerto Rican. I know how to make arroz con pollo with gandules. I think it's the same dish. I'm gonna give it a try. I'll let you know. I gave it a try, did some research on the Trinidad version. I absolutely fell in love with this dish too. I realized why his wife loved it so much growing up in Trinidad. So I made this dish for, I think it was about 125 people. It was her birthday, and a lot of the guests were from Trinidad. So like, talk about career day, right? I have to make this signature dish of the Trinidad, and it's chicken pilau. And you know, I all these Trinidadians that are there to taste it, and they were blown away. So I'm super excited. But I was on eggshells, right? They're gonna love it. They absolutely loved it. So it was awesome. That catered event went really well. So I passed the chicken pilau test, and I'm here to share it with you now today. So we're gonna start off with showing you how to marinate the chicken, and then how we go into making the rice dish and how it all comes together for this wonderful meal. So first off, we have here organic chicken thighs. This is about a pound of, or skinless, boneless organic chicken. Whenever I'm eating poultry, I love to use organic. You can use breast if you like. You can use skin on, bone in. I love thighs because they're really rich in flavor. They're a little bit more fatty, so they're more forgiving to cook, and fat equals flavor. So I always go with chicken thighs when I'm doing like comfort food, like casserole style dishes. So first up, we're gonna marinate our chicken. So we're gonna go with a 1/4 cup of sliced garlic. You can just simply mash this if you like. Next up, we're gonna have 2 habaneros. So that part of the world loves habaneros. I love habaneros. You can go as heavy on this as you like. Habaneros have a really wonderful fruity flavor, but they're also spicy. So the more you use, the more flavor you're gonna get, but the more heat you're gonna get. So be conscious of that. Next up, we have a 1/2 cup of ketchup. Ketchup makes for a wonderful marinade. It has sugar, it has vinegar, it has wonderful spices. So this gives it a really great depth of flavor and sweetness that we're looking for, and helps caramelize everything as well. Next up, 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Just a really great marinade ingredient as well. Umami, glutamates, just really give a depth of flavor to any kind of poultry or any type of protein for that matter. Next up, we're gonna use coconut palm sugar. So you can use brown sugar. Traditionally, I believe they use brown sugar in this dish. Because I'm gonna be using coconut oil and coconut milk to finish the dish, we're gonna use coconut palm sugar. I love to have an ingredient that just kind of like runs right through the entire dish. So 2/3 of a cup of that. Next up is gonna be fresh lime juice. So 3 tablespoons of fresh lime juice, or it's about 1 large lime. This has to be fresh. The concentrate stuff, I don't like it, too astringent. So please use fresh lime juice at home when you're doing this marinade. It's gonna make a difference. That goes straight in. And then lastly, we have 2 teaspoons of adobo. So you can just use salt here if you want. There's a lot of flavor happening, but this is Goya garlic adobo spice, one of my go-tos. So we're gonna put that into this marinade as well. So at this point, we're simply just going to whisk all these ingredients together. Let me get this tucked away. Perfect. We're gonna get our whisk, and then we're gonna whisk these ingredients together here. So all these glutamates and umami flavors and depth of flavor is all gonna come together and really penetrate this chicken. So whenever I'm marinating chicken, or most proteins for that matter, I like to go overnight. Just gives it that much more time to penetrate. You can definitely do as little as an hour if you like. I'm gonna go overnight with this one. Even if you wanted to just use this marinade as a deglaze, you can literally sear the chicken, deglaze the pan with this marinade, and it'll caramelize on the chicken. This is a rendition of this dish, the way I like to do it. Traditionally, they take brown sugar and they caramelize it in the pan, and then they sear the chicken into that caramelized brown sugar. So here we're just adding some other ingredients to mimic all the other flavors in this dish, to really give it a really great depth of flavor. So we're gonna get our pan on here about a medium heat. We're gonna give this chicken a really good toss. Make sure that every single portion of that chicken is just covered in that wonderful marinade. Wonderful. Now that we have this marinade, we're gonna put this off to the side. I have some that I marinated overnight for you, and let me grab that. Here we go. I'm gonna put this off to the side. We're gonna make sure that our pan is starting to get preheated. We're gonna turn it up just a bit, and then we'll turn it down if we need to. Like I said, traditionally this dish is really like a hard caramelized flavor of brown sugar. So we're going for a good sear on this, and we really want to get all these sugars to caramelize on that chicken. It's what's really going to give it that wonderful flavor that chicken pilau is known for. We're going to go in here with 2 ounces, quarter cup of extra virgin coconut oil. Love this for cooking. Really good for you as well. But we're going for flavor here. We're going to get that in our pot. The other 2 ounces is going to be for the rice portion of the dish. And make sure that the oil starts to dance. You know, people always ask me, how do you know when the oil is hot enough or when the pan's hot enough? Well, once you put the, whether it be butter, coconut oil, olive oil, once you start to see it shimmer and kind of dance in that pot, then you know you're where you want to be. Also, once you put the chicken in the pot, you're going to know from audibly the sound of it, if it's sizzling, that it's nice and hot. So this has a lot of sugar in it, so it will caramelize really well for us. We're going to take some of the extra marinade off as we put it in, but we're going to introduce it back in to reduce altogether. So we're going to get our chicken in the pot. That's what you want to hear there, just a nice gentle simmer. Now you know you have the right temperature. Always put food in away from you, especially when you have a fair amount of oil in the pan, just so it doesn't splosh on you. You want to be careful, right? You don't want to get burnt. So use a pair of tongs so you can stay away from the pot. Put it down and away from you, so that way if anything splashes, it splashes away. And we're going to put about a pound of these chicken thighs in there, which in this case, for this size chicken thighs, a pound is going to give us about 5 thighs. Beautiful. So we don't want this to be that much more aggressive of a simmer right now, because like I said, there's a lot of sugar in here. It's going to caramelize. There's a fair amount of coconut oil in here because that's also going to flavor the dish. It's going to run right through the dish. And once we flip this over, we're going to take the rest of this marinade that has a ton of sugar in it, and we're going to introduce it right to the pan to reduce down and become like a syrup. All right, we're getting pretty close here. We're going to give this a flip. So these chicken, besides caramelizing here in the pan, we're also going to cook it with the rice. So we're going to be cooking this chicken basically twice. Traditionally, you caramelize the brown sugar, you put the chicken in the pan, you cook it till it becomes a caramel in the pan, you introduce all the other aromatics, and you just cook it all together. Wonderful way of doing it. Absolutely love that. Here, we're going to do it into 2 steps, because this allows us to have a marinade overnight. So with having that chicken marinating overnight, you really have a depth of flavor that's just going all the way through the chicken and just making it that much more flavorful. So now that we have it flipped over, I'm just going to introduce the rest of the marinade, allow that to cook with the chicken. I'm going to just let this simmer for just a couple of minutes to allow those sugars to caramelize and to concentrate, allow some of that marinade to cook off. But all of this, the chicken, the marinade, everything is going to be introduced into the entire dish to cook all together. So don't worry about finishing it off right now. We're going to finish it off all together in the rice dish. Right now we just want to reduce that marinade down and get the chicken caramelizing. Now that this marinade is almost looking like a caramel, like literally the bubbles are tightening up, just like if you're making a caramel sauce. Now we know that it's ready to go on to the next step here, because we want that sugar to caramelize onto the chicken. And then now that we're at this stage, we're going to move this off to the side and we're going to get started on our sofrito, which is basically all the aromatics that are going to really make this dish a wonderful dish and take it to a whole nother. We're going to get started on our sofrito base for our chicken pilau. So typically when we do a sofrito in a Puerto Rican cooking, we take all the ingredients, aromatic peppers and onions and garlic and cilantro, and we puree them together and then we cook them out. Here we actually have chopped up vegetables that we're going to introduce into our pan, and we're going to cook them so that way they're nice and chunky and they're running through the dish. So it's going to be a little bit different approach to the same similar ingredients. So here that's going to go into the pan. We have in our sofrito, quarter cup of sliced garlic, 2 cups of poblano chilies, 2 cups of sweet bell peppers, 1 large onion or 4 large shallots. We have 1 cup of shredded carrots, and we're going to get all this started cooking because we want it to get really soft, very caramelized, and all those flavors coming together. We're going to add about 2 ounces of coconut oil here. We have extra virgin coconut oil. We'll get this started in our pan. We have the pan over medium-high heat. And then once we have our pan preheated and our oil going, we're going to get all our vegetables in there. So we have our poblano chilies. We have our sliced garlic. We have our shallots sliced. Our diced bell peppers. And right when that hits the oil, you can just smell how delicious it's going to be. All our aromatics go in. We're going to give this a quick stir. So anytime you're putting this combination of ingredients together, typically it's called a sofrito. Like I said, you can either leave it chunky, you can slice it, you can puree it, and if you see our pastelón video that we have out, the sofrito that we use in that dish is actually pureed. Alright, once we have all these vegetables, get that going, we're going to introduce some other aromatics. We have a bay leaf, and that's just going to give it a really great depth of flavor. We have 2 tablespoons of fresh thyme. This is something that you'll see like in jerk chicken, you'll see other parts of Trinidad. Just a really great earthy spice that's going to give this a wonderful, wonderful herbaceous flavor. Next up, we're going to add some shredded carrots. We have 1 cup here of peeled shredded carrots. And we're just going to let this cook. Anytime you're developing a sofrito, you really want to take your time. You want to get it cooked down so it's very soft, lightly caramelized. This stage alone could take about 20 minutes, and it's worth it. You don't want to rush it. You want to get it to where it's nice, soft, and tender, because after that, this dish just kind of like cooks itself. Everything else goes in, and you're off to the races. So really take the time to develop your flavor base here. If you're making a tomato sauce, if you're making a stew, if you're braising a meat, whenever you're introducing those aromatic vegetables, your sofrito, or your mirepoix, or your trinity, depending on what those aromatics are, this is a time where you want to just give it some time. After we've been cooking the sofrito for about 10 minutes, I like to get some spices in there as well. That's going to help break down the vegetables a little bit further and get all the flavors mingling together. So I have 2 different Goya products that I love to use whenever I'm making Puerto Rican food. So since this is really similar to a dish that I had growing up called arroz con pollo y gandules, I just felt like it made sense. So we're going to use sazon. We have about a teaspoon of sazon that's going in here. And if you reference our pastelón video that we have out, you'll see that I'm using the sazon and the garlic adobo in that as well. So see that dish as well. I think you're going to love it. I'm just going to sprinkle in some of this adobo. I'm going to eyeball it here, but you can go as heavy or as light as your palate likes. This is only about a half a teaspoon because we're going to have a lot of flavor coming through with our chicken marinade. That also has some salt. It has some lot of the habanero, the ketchup, the Worcestershire. It's going to add a lot of flavor to this dish. So we're just going to give a little sprinkle, about a half teaspoon and about a teaspoon of the sazon, and we're going to mix this all up and let it cook. Now that we have the sofrito really cooking down and getting soft, and we have all the spices running through it, we're going to start to introduce a couple more elements. So we have here is our pigeon peas. So we call these gandules. Wonderful flavor, amazing ingredient, really good for you. We're using canned Goya pigeon peas here. This is about 1 cup. You can cook them from dry all the way through to they're super tender and then continue with the recipe. I love using the Goya canned pigeon peas, really great quality. Next up is our rice. So the recipe, you can use long grain rice. You can really use any rice that you like and that you enjoy. I'm actually using converted rice. So converted rice is going to give me more structure. It's basically more forgiving. When you par cooked rice and you parboil it and turn it into converted rice, the structure changes, so when you're cooking a dish that has all these elements, a lot of ingredients, it doesn't break up on you. So if I was just doing a regular steamed rice, I'd probably just use long grain or jasmine or basmati. Because I have all these ingredients in here, I want something that's really sturdy, so we're going to use converted. This is 1 cup. You can use your favorite uncle, Uncle Ben. We're going to give that a stir. So something else I like to do whenever I'm cooking rice is cook it in the fat. Cook it and toast it off in the ingredients. If I was making any kind of Latin dish, any kind of rice dish for that matter, I would take the time to lightly cook it. If it was just butter or just olive oil, here we have all these great ingredients and coconut oil. It just wakes it up, right? So like I just kind of think of rice or any kind of dried pantry ingredient, kind of dormant, right? It's been sleeping, it's just kind of been sitting there. It needs to be woken up. The flavors need to be lifted. So I take this time, I give it a little toast, and it really makes a difference. You can see already, this is beautiful. The smell is amazing. You just know looking at it how delicious it's going to be without even trying it yet. All right, next up, we're going to get into some more aromatics. I have 1 bunch of scallions, 1 bunch of cilantro. I'm just going to put about half of each in now. Whenever I'm using herbs, even if it's softer herbs, I like to have like a cooked flavor in the dish, and I like to have a fresh flavor at the end. So I normally reserve a little bit for the end just to finish it as a garnish, but we're going to put some in right now. We'll put that off for a little bit later. And also, wonderful color, flavor, umami. Anytime we can build flavors, I try to do so. This is roasted tomatoes, fire roasted tomatoes. You can use canned tomatoes, you can use fresh diced tomatoes. You can even put like 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and cook that out in there if you like. That'll give it all those wonderful flavors. But here we have a cup of fire roasted tomatoes. That's going straight in. Right now, we really want to take a few minutes. Now that the sofrito is cooked down for about 20, we've introduced our pigeon peas. We toasted out our rice. We gave each one of those stages just about a minute to really coax out all the flavors. Now we have our fire roasted tomatoes going in there. We want to let that reduce for just a second. Every layer needs a chance to come together, to lend itself to the dish. So once again, once we put a lid on this and let it cook, there's nothing left to do. So we really want to take the time here to coax out those flavors and let everything come together. Wonderful. Next up, our chicken broth. So you can use canned broth, you can even use water. There's so much flavor here, you don't even have it to use it, but if you'd like to see our recipe for chicken stock, see our video for how to make chicken stock. We're basically going to deglaze the pan with this. We have some of our ingredients that are lightly caramelizing, sticking to the pan, and we like that. We want to see that because that's just more flavor. And then when we put the chicken stock in, it deglazes it, which basically means that glaze that's stuck on the bottom, it's now lifting it off that pan and introducing it back into the dish. Once again, another layer of flavor. So right now, I want to give it a taste. Before I put the coconut milk and get the chicken in, I just want to kind of see where everything's going. The rice is raw, but I'm just going to taste a little bit of the juice, see how everything's progressing. As a chef, one of the things we do whenever we're creating a dish for a client, for a catering, for consulting, is we want to teach people and we want to put out food that has all these wonderful layers. And in order to create all these layers of flavor, you have to really pay attention to the details. And in the details is, as a chef, is tasting as you go. So always taste as you go, always know you're using the freshest ingredients, and then in the end, you know the dish is going to be a winner. Perfect, absolutely perfect. Now we're going to put in our coconut milk. This is 1 cup. This is going to give it a lot of richness. This whole dish is dairy-free. It's going to look super creamy, but because of all the starchiness, because we took time to toast the rice, and now that we have this coconut milk in here, it's really going to be a creamy dish without any dairy whatsoever. So I want to bring this to a boil, and we're going to introduce our chicken here in just a second, and we're going to reduce it down to a simmer. So I'm going to turn it up on high. I'm going to give it a stir. Right now we want to make sure that nothing's sticking. And once we bring it to a boil, BTB, and reduce to simmer, RTS, nothing will stick to the bottom after that. So that's what we're doing here. Now that we have all the ingredients come together, our sofrito, our homemade chicken stock, our coconut milk, pigeon peas, toasted rice, our bay leaf, fresh thyme, cilantro, scallions, everything is working nicely together. We're going to go ahead and reintroduce our chicken and the caramelized marinade and let this just slow cook all together. We're going to lower it down so we get it down to a simmer. We're going to grab our chicken. We're literally just going to put the chicken and all the reserved marinade that we caramelized all together. Now you can see why we only need 1 cup of that chicken stock, because between the marinade and the sofrito and all the other ingredients, we have more than enough liquid to cook this rice. So we want to give that a stir. We want the chicken to literally cook inside this dish. So obviously this dish is not going to be lacking on flavor whatsoever. I mean, we have flavor from the marinade, flavor from caramelizing the marinade. We have the sofrito. We have all these wonderful ingredients that incorporated together. I mean, you can just see these things are just, it looks like a party in here. It's dancing already. So this is going to cook for about 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes. And you basically want to make sure that the rice is cooked. You want to make sure that the chicken is cooked. And you want to just put a lid on this. You can put this in the oven and bake it off kind of like a pilaf, like set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about it. Traditionally, this is cooked on the stovetop. So we're going to go ahead and finish this on the stovetop as well. Now that I have my simmer set, I'm going to go ahead and put a lid on it, let it cook for about 30 minutes and then check on it, make sure that we're looking good. And then I'm going to show you how to garnish it and finish it. See you in 30 minutes. Now it's been about 30 minutes. We're going to see if it needs like all 40. Oh, whoa. This smells amazing. I mean, it's absolutely intoxicating. So let's put this lid over here to the side. Let's give it a little stir. Let's make sure nothing's sticking on the bottom. Feels good, right? You never know. Sometimes you're like, oh, but no, we're good here. So that's the reason why we want to do that bring to boil, reduce to simmer. Because when you bring all these ingredients to a boil, when you're stirring it, kind of releases everything from the bottom of the pan. And then when you reduce that to the simmer, basically all that convection on the bottom of the pan keeps it from sticking. So that's another reason why you want to bring to boil, reduce to simmer, so that way you can avoid sticking. But this is looking pretty gorgeous. Let's do a couple things here. So we don't want to guess at the chicken, so I'm actually going to use a thermometer. You can take a piece of chicken out, cut it, make sure it's cooked, whatever you're comfortable with. I love using thermometers whenever I'm cooking poultry, just to make sure that we're fully cooked through. So we're looking for 165 and above. Way past that here, which is fine. We're approaching almost 190, which I'm comfortable with. We have that marinade. We have all these wonderful juices and chicken stock and coconut oil that has just been, and coconut milk that's been simmering in. So I know we're gonna have some juicy, delicious chicken. Now I wanna make sure the rice is cooked. So let's give that a taste and let's see where our flavors are. Be careful, it's hot. Oh man, it's so good. I got all the heat from the habaneros, all that sweetness coming from the coconut. Absolutely amazing. So rice is just about there. Chicken is cooked through. It's a little loose, which means there's a little bit extra liquid. We're simply going to garnish the dish, and while we're garnishing it, we're going to let it simmer away. This is one of those things that the longer it sits, the better the flavor is. Any kind of comfort dish like this, you know, you're done cooking it, keep a lid on it. Do this an hour before dinner time, and when everyone's ready to eat or guests are ready to eat, the longer it sits there, the better the flavor is going to be, and then everything just kind of comes together. Let me show you how we finish this. So we have the other half of the half bunch of cilantro and scallions. We're going to introduce that right in. And this we're going to stir in. So we have these chopped up olives and pimentons. This is going to add a whole nother layer of flavor and salinity. And then lastly, we're going to add some micro cilantro to this dish. I just think microgreens are that much more intense in flavor, but they're just pretty. So when I'm ready to present it to catered guests, I just finished with a little bit of microgreens. I just think it's that one little touch that really sets it apart. We had those bay leaves in there, so when you see those while you're stirring, take those out. Don't want to eat those. And that's it. So we got the cilantro, the scallions, the olives, all incorporated into this dish. The chicken is completely cooked through. Everything is tightening up perfectly. We're gonna just let that simmer for just another moment. The chicken pilau looks absolutely amazing. Cannot wait to dig in and try this. This is definitely gonna be a must try at home. So I wanna get in here. I wanna make sure I get all the goodies. Definitely wanna make sure I get a nice big piece of chicken. Look at that, beautifully tender braised chicken thighs. All those wonderful flavors. Don't want to sleep on the rice. It's all about, I mean, this is a rice dish, really. The chicken happens to be there, but the chicken's going to be amazing as well. So this dish would be amazing without the chicken. You can enjoy it with chicken, without chicken. You put a different protein in there, but man, it smells too good. I got to get in there right now. Let's try this. We got a little bit of the chicken. My mouth is watering already. I can't wait. Get some of the pigeon peas, some of the rice. Mmm. You know, it's like, it's one of those flavors where you just can't put your finger on it, right? You have like the caramelized coconut sugar and the coconut milk, but that just kind of like sets the back note for all this wonderful heat from the habaneros and the salinity from the olives, all those aromatics. Like, this dish is so unique. It is a must try. Hit that like button, send me a comment below, let me know how this worked out for you. Subscribe to our channel, please. I can't wait to share more dishes like this for you. Absolutely amazing. I love it. I think you're gonna love it too. Enjoy it. Oh man, this is right. It's too much.